I'm back again. It's DJ Gasparella. Yo yo.
CK Weeks.
Heavy soul.
I know fit explain this feeling. My life it don't sweet past honey. With my clothes of many colors. I'm on my G-Jog.
How much is tomatoes on your end now? Yeah, and other peppers, as well as onions, particularly those perishables. We heard in recent time that the perishables have suddenly gotten cheaper in various parts of the country, to the extent that it made the headlines on the front pages, lead stories. Ha! That ain't no small feat. But then that's that. Now, what's responsible for that? We've been hearing the president and a number of other people say, the prices of food is going to crash and now, but hey, is this the crash we're waiting for? Or is there another one coming? Let there be another one, because people are looking at other food items like rice, like gari, like beans, like yam, also crashing prices over time. Well, we understand that the United Nations predicted that 82 million Nigerians, that's about 64% of the country's population, may go hungry by 2030. Certainly not the kind of prediction we want. And it's called on the government to tackle climate change, pest infestations, and other threats to agricultural productivity. Now, there have been several interventions to help Nigeria achieve that, food security over time, especially in recent times when food inflation is the highest of the inflation demographic, if I can put it that way. Well, this morning we have three people on our panel to discuss this. Raman Adenioye is CEO, Rashak Farms and Agro Island Limited. She joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Okay. We also have Sabiu Sani, who is former CEO, Kaduna State Agricultural Development Agency. He joins us virtually from Kaduna, along with Kabir Yusuf, who is the National Coordinator, Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones. He's joined us from he's also joined us virtually this morning. Gentlemen and lady, thank you for joining us today. Let me begin with you, Ms. Adeoye, in our studio in Abuja. Now, all of this conversation isn't coming to you strangely. Okay, I think we need to first of all start from Mr. Sonny in Kaduna. Mr. Sonny, all of this conversation about food insecurity, about the logistics of food and all, what are the things? We understand the United Nations says it's all about climate change, pest infestations, and other threats like logistic challenges, like storage and all those things. What can you tell us about the Kaduna experience? Mr. Sani, Sabiu Sani, that is for you.
As a line with your own statement, which is also in support of what you have quoted, food insecurity is a combination of challenges that require integrated approach to resolve in this our country. There is that need for us to bring private investment and bring knowledge and coordinated approach in formalizing the food system and the production system in its own. Because when you look at agriculture, not only in Kaduna State, and also which virtually can translate into what happens across the country, production is usually smallholder, limited financial investment, disorganized structures, and sometimes focusing on agriculture more as a social services rather than an economic sector. All the efforts that is happening in recent years, including the policy changes at federal and state level, is to be able to bring in and make agriculture look good so that private capital and also the required institutional frameworks and other supporting facilities, including knowledge, and linking it to the new technology, especially the issues relating to climate changes that we are facing, which truly has an impact in the food production system. But post-harvest losses too and low yields are something that contribute to some of these challenges that we are facing today in terms of our production output and the level of interest and capital deployed into the agri and food system in the country.
Well, let me ask if that's been the experience of Mr. Aderoye in our Abuja studio. Madam, has that been your experience? Oh, okay. Well, we'll sort that out because we need to hear from a farmer. She's a farmer, and she definitely, as they say, know where the foot pinches. Well, let me ask Mr. Yusuf. He works with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. So there have been, every time we talk about any issue in the country, we talk first about the federal government. We are wondering what is the federal government doing about it. And most of the time when people have been talking about food security or a lack of it, to a large extent, people are wondering what's happening. What are those people at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture doing? Where's the minister? We don't even know what the minister is doing. We don't understand what's going on and all of that. I mean, is that a little too low of us? Are we pointing fingers in the wrong direction? Is there someone else we should be looking at? Exactly. Tell us, what should Nigerians be expecting from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture?
Good morning, Mr. Ayo. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. So permit me, let me talk from the development part. As you know, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture comprises of different departments, different agencies, all working together assiduously to ensure that this country is not only food secure, but at least we're even net exporters of food. So let me talk from the development part and a lot of things that we've been doing to ensure that we're not just food secure, but we're net exporters of food. There's what we call the NAGS Agro Pocket, which was a budget support from the African Development Bank to ensure that we boost food security. And this cycle has been happening for almost a year now, whereby we provide subsidized farm inputs to farmers, and then we conduct monitoring and evaluation to see how they're able to mop up. Of course, if you check the statistics, you would have seen how much buffers that we've gotten. But it's worthy of note that this food security issues didn't start now, right? It's a long-term activity lingering, and it's a component of a lot of things: monetary policy, the global economic landscape, and importantly, the insecurity, because logistics is also very key. And you can attest to really the work the ministry has been doing, and even the country at large. During COVID, there were a lot of analysis that Nigeria is going to go hungry, as a lot of countries, but we didn't experience that. We closed our borders and were able to eat because there was a lot of production from the smallholder farmers. But with the current insecurity and also the fear, you can understand that a lot of people are not going to farm. It's just of recent that people are now going back to farm. Now, added to what my colleague just said, Mr. Sani, is also the climate change, right? The diseases. We just witnessed a very huge, massive loss in the ginger, the same on tomato. So these are also parts of components that are hindering a lot of activities conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture that is seriously working to ensure that we're food secure. Thank you.
But talking about those the development initiatives, you know, it's a good thing. But what problems do we want to solve? And what's the place of collaboration? Because as we all know, I say from time to time, the federal government doesn't have the land by the laws of the country. So if the government is going to make use, the federal government is going to make use of any land, we know that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is some sort of aggregator, so to speak, for the ministries of agriculture all across the country. So how's that collaboration been? What are the challenges? And I'm pretty sure that is something Mr. Sonny would also want to. Maybe I should actually ask you, Mr. Sonny, in terms of collaboration with the federal government, given the fact we know that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is not, really the one to do the farming per se, it's the states. All right, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's the states that own the lands. It's the states that, engineer all of these farming things. So that collaboration is something that people are wondering whether or not it is happening significantly enough.
Well, I can tell you that the federal government, specifically Federal Ministry of Agri and Food Security, has been consistently and progressively supporting the agricultural productivity in the country in terms of policy frameworks and in terms of even support. What I want us to see is that if you look at over the years, federal government at their level have come up with policy, the policy environment that encourage private sector investment, that also provide the opportunity for people or smallholder, because you need to understand also the fact that agriculture in Nigeria is significantly smallholder. So at a time when federal government thought it wise to intervene in broader areas, mechanization, large-scale warehousing and all that, and then also looking at agriculture in form of give them subsidizing inputs and also regulating the operational space, which now form the basis of the state government to also look through keying into the program. Of recently, the various programs and objectives. And within the recent years, what we have seen is the expansion of the space, recognition of agriculture as a business, and also opening up the space in terms of federal government making available its own facilities, and also going towards collaborations locally and internationally, bringing in funding, bringing in donor capital, and bringing in technological support, and supporting the various linkages that will improve productivity, that will optimize the use of existing facilities, that will also encourage private investment into the sector, so that at the end of the day, when you look at within the last, let's say, 10 or years thereabout, we have increased number of seed companies, we have increased number of operators that are providing funding support, and we have seen the participation of Nigeria presently. We are into it, like collaboration between federal government and number of state government in the special agri processing zone. I would say truly that Federal Ministry of Agriculture has been very active, and they have been also flexible, in the sense that if you look at even the name from Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, then you will understand with me that yes, there is that issue relating to realizing the dynamics that are involved in agricultural productivity and the systemic alignment that is happening to make it functional and meet the requirement. So what is it that we want to solve? We want to solve issues relating to productivity enhancement by improving the operating environment, adopting functional and useful policy frameworks, engaging with the relevant stakeholders locally and internationally, and bringing in collaboration at local and international level for this country to be able to improve that output. And of course, the moment you are talking about productivity enhancement, then bringing in new seed, new technologies, and also supporting the smallholder farmers by promoting formation of farmer cooperatives, and then leveraging on those structures that have been created to be able to reach out to the farmers at the smallholder level and trying to guide the operational spaces is all that has been taking place. But this, as this is happening, climate change also is showing its face.
We'll come back to some of those issues, Mr. Sonny, my apologies. But, you know, when you talk about policy enhancement, value addition, all of that is sounding more at the policy, more like the policy level. The experience of the farmers is a very critical factor here. Whether those policies experience with their experience, whether those policies align with their experiences, that's another thing altogether. Let's find out from a farmer. Mr. Adenioye, I mean, we've been trying to hear your voice on this. You've listened to the two gentlemen, both of them government, so to speak. So talk to us whether there is alignment between your experiences as a farmer and some of these lofty initiatives and pictures they are painting in our heads. Madam, my apologies. I can't hear you. I was hoping actually that somebody else was hearing you. But we'll come to, I really like to take your voice now because, and I hope that we can hear your voice the next time you speak. Excuse me, because, for instance, I was speaking with someone earlier in the week, and they were talking about what they are doing, what some states have been doing, trying to build the inner roads that lead to the farms and from the farms. And it's a major logistic issue. From farm to table, the logistic is shorter if the roads are better. So again, I hope we can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, but awesome. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now. Please go ahead. So do those policies and those lofty pictures these gentlemen have painted align with some of your experiences as a farmer?
Well, to some extent, just giving credit to them. But when it comes to our own realities, you know, working with smallholder farmers, some of these things, you know, they're not as the same. For example, when it comes to the issue of, you know, providing input to smallholder farmers, that is one thing, providing input. The other thing is it timely, right? Do the farmers have them when they need them? From my experience, in most cases, that's not the case. The farmers get this input most times when it's late, right? And that's why, you know, we come in to try and do the little we can in our own way. Just to be sure, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. No, don't worry about it. We'll hear you. Just go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so definitely this Federal Ministry of Agric, you know, saying that they provide input, that is true, but the question is, do the farmers get this when they need it? Is it timely? That's one. Obviously, the issue of the processing zone, fantastic idea. I think it's a good initiative. But then again, the question becomes, do we have enough production to actually service, you know, some of these areas? That's another question that we'll probably want to ask ourselves. Definitely, we've had our own share of, you know, the effect of climate change. With us, we experienced drought in some areas of Kaduna, and of course flooding in another area in Kano State. So pretty much affecting like our farms. So these are issues and the major issues. And of course, the cost of input is another one, right? Are the farmers able to afford, you know, these inputs, even when they are subsidized? I mean, there are a lot of questions we can ask here and see how some of these policies actually play out. To the best of my knowledge, I think the Federal Ministry is, you know, doing the best they can, but can they do more? Absolutely, yes. More needs to be done, you know, and pretty soon also.
Interesting. Well, Dr. Yusuf, let me bring this to you now. You said you want us to talk about development. Absolutely. So let's talk about development. For as far back as I can remember, in fact, I saw a document that dates back to, I think, somewhere even pre-independence, efforts being made by Nigeria to develop its agricultural space sustainably. This document dates back to pre-independence. Now, I also remember that on the Naira notes of old, and maybe some of them still have those emblems now, what you would find on those Naira notes are the granite pyramids, the farming, agricultural, representations. Those are the things that you'll find on our Naira notes at the time when I was growing up. Now, we got to a time where I hear all kinds of initiatives of the federal government to boost agricultural production in the country again, since the time that we kind of set it aside. I've heard, and I always remember, Operation Feed the Nation. I remember Operation Feed the Nation because it was sung, a musician put it in a song. And then after that, we heard about the Green Revolution. The next time we heard about anything close was the Directorate for Food, Roads, and Rural Infrastructure under the Babangida administration. And after that, and then, of course, with that came the Better Life program, which was largely a program largely to help women, to galvanize women about farming and, all of that. The next time we heard about it is when the Fourth Republic began and Chief Olusegun Obasanjo decided to champion agriculture all over again. And we've been struggling with him because if we had succeeded with that over the past 25 years, we would not be talking about food insecurity now, or would we? So now there are others. You've mentioned one, and then Mr. Sonny also mentioned the special agro-industrial processing zones of the that came from the AFDB. So advise us or talk to us. What exactly are the challenges that make these lofty, seemingly lofty initiatives seem to go up and go down? And how do we ensure that doesn't happen again? Dr. Yusuf, that's for you.
Yes, thank you very much. So first of all,
I think you're suddenly muted. You want to check it, please? Oh, dear.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yes. So let me start with your pre-independence statement, right? To tell you, yes, you're talking about the granite pyramids of then and vices now. So right now, if you have granite pyramids, it's not development. That is stranded commodity, right? You just have stranded commodities. That's what you have. So it's not a show of development for us because we're in an era of industrialized agriculture. So you don't want to have granites or maize pile up in a pyramid. Rather, you want to have them going through processing lines, being processed to finished commodities. That is what we call development. And that is why in this country, with all the assiduous work that the government is doing, you don't see granite pyramids because they're going into processing in different channels of the country. Now, coming back to all the efforts by different governments, I can tell you that is why we're here. You need to keep in mind that we're a growing population. By 2030, would be one of the most populous countries in the world. We're 250 million now. During the time of pre-independence, how much are we? So you also need to put that into context. Now, narrowing down to the SAPZ, to the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone.
Just 1 second, Dr. Yusuf, before you go to the SAPZ. I mean,
Yeah.
It is understandable, the issue you raised about the fact that, it's not development. But if we had, and then the numbers and all those other things, if we had those long-term thinking, I'm very sure that we'll not still be grappling now. That's the point that I'm making. Those initiatives were good for then, not good for now. Now, what were the bottlenecks that we had at the time? It's definitely not just because of our numbers, demography, or population as a people, because we knew we were going to be this much. In fact, there's data out already that by, I think, was it 2050, we're going to be about 400 million people. It's a fact that is known to us. So that's the reason I'm asking these questions now.
Well, this is the same as a lot of, or what I want to call the resource course, right? We had agriculture at that time, and agriculture was thriving. Then we got oil, right? So it's all about the economics. Which one brings you the fastest fund to support your people? right? Oil gave us that. And we also have the economic downturn that affected all countries all over the world. So you need to put all those into perspective, right? We've been doing assiduous activities, but this is not absent a lot of challenges. As we're developing, of course, a lot of challenges are coming. At that time, there was nothing really like climate change issues, right? There wasn't, of course, importantly, the population. Now, agriculture became only possible with power. Now, you also know the issues that we're having in our power sector. And it's not only peculiar to this country, right? It's peculiar to a lot of countries. So I think it's a puzzle of different pieces. It's not only one thing that affected our agriculture. But believe me, I think the government has tried thus far to be able to bring us to where we are now. A lot of African countries can't feed themselves. Ethiopia, some years back, were going into farming, right? So Nigeria has never experienced that. So I think we've tried. And even a lot of European countries have had farming. They've had their successive periods. And we keep forgetting, we keep comparing ourselves with these developed countries, not putting into concept, giving you example of the United States. They have a democracy that is 200 years. How old is our democracy? When did we start? When did we get independence? So I think we need to put this into context and also give ourselves accolade from where we start and where we are now.
It's a long way. It's a very, I don't know, I don't know if Ms. Adenoye agrees with you that we should give ourselves a pat on the back. Do you think we could have avoided getting to this point, Ms. Adenoye?
No, I don't think this is a period to be giving ourselves a pat on the back. I think there are some fundamental issues that we need to address. I think the fact that we don't actually have data, in the agri space, I think is concerning. If I'm to, address this kind of situation that we're in right now, the first question I'll ask myself is, do we even have data, right? Do we have the data of the smallholder farmers that we have in this country? Do we have data of those that are into, commercial farming? What is their production capacity? What is their yield like? What kind of commodities, are they growing? So when I have that information, I'm able to now say, okay, this information I can take into now processing, right? Okay, so we want to start processing. We want to, expand our processing capacity and then add value to our grains, our commodities. Absolutely fantastic. I think that's good, right? But do we even have enough production? Are we producing enough to be able to feed this processing facilities that we're trying to open across the country, right? I mean, these are information that we need to know. You said Ethiopia is they're not able to feed themselves or something. I can't remember what you just said now, but the point is, when Ethiopians decide they're going to cultivate this hectare land size, they do that. Is that the case for us here? We'll probably say, okay, we're cultivating so number of hectares of land. Is that really the case? Do we have those hectares of land cultivated, or are those just numbers we are throwing in the air? You understand? What is our reality? What is on paper? For me, I don't have issues with, ideas. I think anything to improve the agri sector is welcome. But my challenge has always been implementation. You understand? That is very key, and that is very important. We saw that with the Anchor Borrowers program. It was a fantastic idea, if you ask me. I think it should, be revisited. But more importantly, how are we implementing? I think that was not properly implemented, and that's probably one of the challenges. So ideas to me are great. I mean, some of the ideas we've come up with as a nation, fantastic. But when it comes to implementation, how are we doing? I'll give you an example. So right now we are in the wet season planting period. We've cultivated several commodities. I'm not sure if the federal ministry has started even thinking about dry season farming, right? Because that's a conversation we've started having in-house in our organization. And we've come to realize that we might not necessarily even be able to cultivate some crop in the dry season because we don't even have seed. You understand? So these are how are we preparing? We prepare late when it comes to like primary production. We prepare late, and then we give our inputs late, and then we expect that, okay, we want to have, food security. I think we need to start seeing agriculture as a business, right? And not necessarily as some, I don't know, charity cause, you know, if that makes sense. So that's probably what I would say for a fact. Probably, yeah, we've done pretty well, but this is not, I'll not give ourselves a pass mark at this point. I think we can do better, and we need to do better. In fact, we must do better. We don't have a choice. That's just the truth.
I really want us to talk about the special agro-industrial processing zones, which you also said is a good idea. But before that, just this quick one from you, madam. The infrastructure, soft infrastructure that we have on ground for agriculture, do you know some of them? How easy is it, for instance, to come across, you know, investment funding to get things done for you? How easy is it for farmers to access anything to get off the ground and produce food for the country, in any part of the country?
I don't really think it's easy for farmers to access funding, that's for sure. I don't think it is easy. I know of a couple, you know, private sector organizations trying to make this happen. We happen to be one of them, to make sure the farmers are able to get the inputs that they need at a very cheap, you know, costs, and not, you know, drown them in debt. So for us, assessing funding, I mean, we can say for a fact we've not accessed funding from anywhere, and we are still doing the work we're doing. You know, when I say access fund from anywhere, locally, let me be clear with that. Locally, we've not, you know, accessed fund from what's it called, any organization.
All right.
But now here we are addressing the needs of smallholder farmers, providing them, you know, input. You understand? So just last week or thereabout, we were on a field visit, right? And some of our farmers are telling us, okay, even though yes, we had this input as at when we needed it, right? Road is an issue because they have to go through canoe, and then they had other fertilizer, you know, in the water. And they're thinking, okay, are we supposed to take up road construction now, you know, and provide road for farmers? That's a challenge, right? And then they tell you different problems that, you know, they're facing in, aside from this expensive cost of inputs. Of course, road construction is an issue. Even some of these farmers, there is one thing that we're also not talking about them, it's their health. You know, basic health care is an issue for them. When a farmer is not healthy, how do you want the farmer to cultivate his piece of land? You understand? To be honest, in my experience, I think land is not really an issue. Access to land for farmers has never really been an issue, right? From our own experience. But it's always been the input, the basic infrastructure, the road, the warehouses, you know, the storage, fair pricing, that's another one, right? So even after they do all this work and they're able to now finally cultivate the land, right? What value are they getting? You know, are they getting premium price for their commodities? That's another thing. And then you now argue, okay, you can't get premium price if you're not adding value. So the problems are multifaceted, right? And I think we can probably, if you ask me, start from primary production, you know, all the way to processing, the value addition. Of course, we now talk about, you know, marketing and, you know, all of those challenges. But I think we still have a very long way to go. And I think there has to be like a sense of urgency when it comes to food security. You know.
It's one thing for us.
That being said,
yes, go ahead.
There is a fundamental. Sorry, hold on. Sorry, the issue of insecurity is a fundamental one. Also, it's our reality. We face that on a daily. You know, we've had one of our field officers killed by gunmen. I mean, our farmers leave their farm, you know, in the middle of work because of banditry and all that. That is a reality, right? And that also is very, very important and needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Sonny, because the farmers are in the states and in various communities in states. Now, Kaduna happens to be one of the beneficiaries of the SAPZ, which you mentioned earlier. And on, I think sometime in the course of this week, we spoke with someone who is also from a beneficiary state, saying that, you know, we ought to have moved faster on this, but we really haven't. And the fear that people would have is this even going to take, is it a hoopla? Is it even going to happen at all? And do you think the special agro-industrial processing zones can address or will address the issues raised by Ms. Adenioye?
Yes, when you look at the program objectives and the pipeline activities that are guiding the principles and the operations of the special agri-processing zone, you will see that they are fundamentally structured to address some of those challenges that she mentioned. One, a modern agriculture will minimize the physical activity of small-scale holder farmers by providing some mechanization support, which will be able to reduce the drudgery in primary production activity. Funding will come in also so that you'll be able to have quality inputs and timely. And then creation of an ecosystem from the source of primary production down to the processing level and the relevant linkages is also part of what the special agri-processing zone tried to resolve. So I'm very confident and optimistic that yes, special agri-processing zone has done the right thing by digging through database approach and specific targeting of challenges associated with smallholder farming. Let us not forget that post-harvest handling is also a challenge, and also because we are dealing with seasonal productivity, significantly rent paid, there is that periodic fluctuation in prices of commodity. At harvest time, price is usually low, and then down the line, it progressively increases. In between, you have middlemen that go in and take advantage of that identified gaps. So structure like this that African Development Bank with the state and federal government are coming up with will now be able to create a balance and the required synergy that will be able, one, to improve output per unit area, reduce the drudgery associated with manual operation in production, resolve the challenge of market access by farmers and access to the quality input, and be able now to reorganize them in a manner that you'll be able to reach them for the required data about productivity and the required capacity building that you need to put on them to improve the quality of output, the quantity of output, and to reduce post-harvest losses. I believe if we are able to reduce our post-harvest losses significantly, improve production on per unit area, and strengthen the marketing system, which will now favor further investment in the strategic storage and probably even the emergence of warehouse receipt system and expansion of commodity exchanges is what we should be viewing, and I believe it will significantly give us the desired output within the shortest possible time.
Dr. Yusuf, it would seem like this is all on you. Kaduna is just one of, I think, 7 states that are that are the first beneficiaries in this first phase of the project. I'm particularly concerned about this because we understand that money has already been earmarked, $520 million or so, correct me if I'm wrong, and that is just sitting idly somewhere undisbursed. And the land, from what we also have been told, that the states have gotten their land ready and it's ready to go. They're just waiting for the federal government or whoever it is. And I believe that that person will be you as the national project coordinator to get these things off the ground. Exactly where are we on this project, and how soon before Nigerians begin to benefit from the lofty ideals and expected outcomes of this project?
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Ayo, let me first start telling you a little bit about what SAPZ brings to bear. SAPZ is invariably the game changer. It is the answer to diversifying Nigeria's economy with agriculture. And all the things my sister said with regards to looking at agriculture as a business is exactly why we have the SAPZ, changing the narrative from agriculture as a way of life to a profit-making business. And we operate, SAPZ has a two-system operating model, right? Enhancing productivity, providing infrastructure and access to finance. So these are all the things they said in sum up. That is what the SAPZ brings to bear. Now, just going back to your question regarding the funds and where we are at SAPZ. Yes, to correct you, it's 538 million US dollars, right? Now, these funds are not sitting idly. So I think it's good, a very deep understanding of how development projects work, especially those of subsidiary loan agreements, which the state have. So currently, we've disbursed funds to all the participating states, 8 states in the SAPZ. All of them have funds in their special account. So we have what we call funds in special accounts and funds in direct payment. You can pick any of the states. We have Kano, Kaduna, Kwara, Oyo, Ogun, Cross River, Imo, and the FCT. All of them have money in the special accounts. So usually funds are replenished based on state utilization. How early are they able to deplete that money? So instead of us sitting down the money, actually my KPI is based on how early I'm able to push the states to utilize this fund.
Just a quick one. Yeah, just a quick one, Dr. Yusuf. My apologies for butting in. Exactly how much does each state have now?
Okay. Each state out of the $538 million, like Kano has $131 million. Kaduna has $40.16 million. Kwara has $42.19 million. Oyo has $39.35 million. Ogun has $111.36 million. Imo has $44.73 million. And Cross River has $39.30 million, while FCT has $52.42 million. But that whole amount is not being disbursed in states. So we have what we call annual work plan budgets. This is what this is the technical support we support the states to develop, right? Especially in the first 2 years. So they've developed their annual work plan and budget, and they tell us these are the forecast. This is what they intend to spend, looking at all the activities they can put in place, specifically mapping their beneficiaries, start developing the ATCs, storage house, connecting infrastructure, access to finance. So each of them, depending on their annual work plan and budget, they get funds disbursed. I can tell you annual work plan and budget of Cross River was 8.9 million. That of Imo was 8.50 million. And that of Kaduna was 1.9 million. And that of Oyo was 7.3 million. Out of that, a chunk of it have been disbursed to them in their special accounts for activities within their thresholds.
I'm just interested, first of all, so that we, the reason for this is maybe to make your job a little easier, at least, and to also help galvanize everyone else. Now, because we had a conversation with someone from Oyo State, the last time, and he was saying that, look, this money should be disbursed and all of this. So is it that some of them are not aware that money has already been disbursed? Exactly what are they, who is supposed to, because I'm wondering exactly how much has been disbursed to each of these states that is sitting in those, whatever names of those accounts that you call them, including the direct beneficiary account. What exactly has been disbursed? What are they supposed to do with it? And for how long do they have? So this doesn't end up another, talk shop, as we say.
Yes. So let me take one state as example. You can choose any state, or we can take Oyo, since you had the privilege of talking to someone in Oyo. The rudiments of project, of course, as you said, need to be understood. It's a very interesting and complex project. So a lot of people have interest to, of course, talk about it, not fully understanding the workings, right? So funds are disbursed directly from the development financing institution to the states. They don't come to the federal government because they signed a subsidiary loan agreement. All the federal government does is to coordinate and ensure those funds are judiciously spent according to the development objectives, because if anything goes wrong, the federal government is held liable because they signed and they guaranteed those funds to those states, right? And they also provide technical implementation support. These are what we do here in the national office. So Oyo, for example, on the 26th of June, Oyo got 725,950,000 US dollars in their special accounts, right? The annual work plan and budget was approved to the tune of 7.3 million. So this money is with Oyo. So now how do these states use? Depends on the capacity for you to utilize these funds, deplete these funds. You have an annual work plan and budget with stipulated activities that you want to do, that you want to utilize these funds. Of course, this is a new project, right? Preliminary activities first. You want to clear the land. Of course, you want to start building. You need to design the hubs. Now, quality at entry is very, very important. This is what we need to realize. And you've been talking about different activities that have been done by government and all that, right? So these are the things government want to ensure it's done right. Quality at entry.
Okay.
We don't want to just, let me just finish. We don't want to just move because you have money, just move it into the field and you spend it without looking at where is your input, where is your output. So these states have this money, they have an annual work plan and budget, and there's stipulated procedures on how to spend that money. And they all know that. And states, just to finalize, each state has a project office that are the signatories to those accounts. Not the national office, not the federal ministry, not the federal government.
Interesting. Now, to the part that will interest Ms. Adenioye, we understand from conversations with the SA to the AFDB president on industrialization, Professor Ilaro Yinka, that it's a government-enabled, private sector-backed project. Now, please explain that to us. If money has been disbursed to the states, it's only natural for those who may have access to it to want to corner it. How is that kind of thing insulated? And how does the private sector people get into it in a way that they actually lead the project as opposed to government officials getting in the way as usual?
Okay, thank you. So I think the...
just a second. It's actually for Dr. Kabiru. Just a second. Madam, just a second. It's actually for Dr. Kabiru because I know that that question will interest you. That's why I'm asking him.
Okay. Thank you very much. So private sector. The SAPZ is government-enabled, private sector-led, right?
Yeah.
Why did we bring the private sector? It's for sustainability, right? And just to answer a question she raised about farmers' ability to pay for inputs, even though it's subsidized. Now, we need to understand that it's time we move away from gratis, right? You know a serious person from perhaps I don't want to use the word unserious, but if a person has skin in the game, then you know he's serious. He's doing agriculture to make profit. So that is why we specifically look for farmers that are able, right? And sometimes we also support farmers. We also have different growth scheme project to metamorphose farmers in different chains. Now let's come back to the question you asked, how do private sector leverage? Now we need to put into context that this is taxpayers' money, right? So you don't collect taxpayers' money as government and give to private sector. No, you don't do that. What you do is provide the public infrastructure. So these loans are catalytic loans to de-risk the investment, to make agriculture a profit-making business, right? To reduce the operating expenditure. So if we provide you with connecting roads from your production site to your processing facility, we've done a lot for you as a private sector. At least we have supported you in reducing your post-harvest loss. If we build a dam and irrigation facility close to the farms, we've done a lot for the farmers. This means they're able to produce all year, wet season and dry season. If we support an SME within a seed system SME, because you know, for you to get the required yield, quality seed is very important, and you need financing, right? So we support these SMEs to get access to finance to develop quality and standards, especially when you want to produce commodities for exports. There's a certain level of standards and traceability that need to put in place. Mechanization. Instead of giving you free tractors, why don't we support young people into agriculture, right? Train them, coordinate them, provide them with access to finance to get these tractors that they lease to these farmers for a service. So you've done now a continuous ecosystem, more like a circular economy that feeds itself continuously.
Okay.
So this is how we bring private sector, by reducing their capital expenditure and reducing the operating cost.
You know, we could go on and on. My apologies, Dr. Yusuf. We could go on and on because it's you know, sounding very exciting, more and more exciting. And just when we're about to get into the meat of the matter, the time is really speeding. But by way of final words, maybe I should ask Mr. Sonny first of all, and please, if you can answer this in 30 seconds, that Dr. Yusuf has said that the ball is in the courts of the states. What's Kaduna waiting for? You have money already, that's what he said.
Yes, as he rightly said, there are preliminary activities, setting up the project office, then doing the basic design, passing through all the processes that will now be able to activate the real activities relating to the infrastructural development program that needed to be done. So that is what we are into at the moment.
Okay.
So that is what we are in.
Okay. Well, Ms. Adenioye, do these all sound exciting to you, or it's just talk until you start to experience it?
Yeah, so I'll say we need to be data-driven, right? We need to have data. We need to do a lot of research. And more importantly, I'm interested in the implementation of, all these policies. And also, how do I put this now? The monitoring of, this policies after, it's been implemented. Then we can now say, okay, it's all worth it. But for now, I guess we'll see how it goes. But more importantly, there is a lot of work to be done, and we just better get at it.
Clearly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've only started this conversation, and Dr. Kabir Yusuf, as we've spoken over and over again before, communication is it. Giving people out information and not really communicating to get feedback from them might not really achieve your own desired goals, but hey, I guess we'll wait and time will tell we'll be able to achieve these lofty ideals. Thank you so much for everyone for being a part of this conversation. Truly appreciate it. I'm very sure that we're going to continue to have this conversation for a while. Let me thank you, Rahman Adenioye, CEO, Rashak Farms and Agro Allied Limited, joined us from our Abuja studio, as well as Mr. Sabi Usani, who is a former CEO, Kaduna State Agricultural Development Agency, joined us from Kaduna, and Dr. Kabir Yusuf, National Coordinator, Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones, joined us from our Abuja studio. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for your time today. Now, we move to something that is as African as agriculture. What is it? I'll let you know after this break.